Let me get my notes up. Yes, I am presenting as Gehn. Or for those who are watching this stream and who don't know the Myst games, this is not a Confederate uniform. This is the villain from Riven. Just so you don't get the wrong idea or something like that, since the costume was based upon that. Where's my notes? How's that? That's better? Okay. There we go. What am I saying? I need to know what I'm saying. Just like this? That better? Up, tilt up. Tilt. Okay, how's that? 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, let's do a quick mic check while I'm finding this. Hands up if your name is Michael. That concludes the mic check. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong year's presentation. I'm looking at my 2019 year's presentation notes. That's why I couldn't find it. There we are. Yeah. First, I was writing to say this costume is not mine. This was made by Riven Chan or Melinda. You did the fantastic costume. Parts of it do actually look better than the costume that Sign has on display, like the belt buckle. So full thanks to her for letting me wear this costume because it's a bit more fitting. Thank you. This is Gen's summer outfit, you know. Okay, so I have a lot of slides to get through, so I'm going to try talking very quickly. We'll see how we go. So to those who have been to a Washington Mysterium before, you know the deal with me and what I get up to with my match shenanigans. So for those who are new and don't know me, hi, I am Mike Ando, or the guy with a username never designed to be pronounced. I'm a time-traveling mad scientist, maker, inventor from Brisbane, Australia. I've been a member of this community for 20-something years or so. I collect nerdy things like the lab coat in that photo is from 20th Century Fox's costume department. It was screen used in Firefly and is exact copy of the one worn by Dr. Horrible, if you know that. So that's a proper mad scientist one. Do you think I'm joking about being a time-traveling mad scientist? This is my car. 1981 DeLorean that I imported to Australia, right-hand drive converted and everything, and I use it to go to the grocery store to pick up milk, because why not? Okay, so I was once on Beauty and the Geek Australia, where I stuck on a whole bunch of Miss shirts. If you're wondering, I was not the beauty. Kind of best I am. Over the years, I have built all sorts of things over the year. Best known probably for the Myst book replica. It was featured all over the internet, like Smithsonian Institute used a feature of this on their website for it. And this is the texture that Sign used for Real Myst Masterpiece Edition for the Myst book as well. Other things I've made is Dunny clocks, a mechanical and electronic one, if you prefer new school or old school, and you want to know exactly what Troran past Goran it is in their 25-hour time. Another thing worth mentioning is the Riven Journals and Riven Elementary that I host. The Riven Journals is a fun little game from 1997's Riven's release at King's Play. Riven Elementary is relatively newly put up there. It's a counting game with maths, and it's got the Dunny symbols in them. Rawa says it's not canon, but it's the only symbols we've got. So, you know, head to journals.riumplus.com if you want to party like it's 1997. I made a new thing. I've been teasing this one for months online with photos of a complex machine, and no one's really been able to decipher what it is. It's a replica of something from my favorite Myst game that I've been building in my laboratory back home on a remote subtropical island of Australia that features at least 5 very unusual animals. I am very excited to finally reveal this one. So without further ado, let me call my assistant, Scribe. Water bottle. So, You can probably tell from this crowd as to who actually knows what this thing is and what it does and what it doesn't. Yeah, so this is my replica of Gehn's holographic imager from Riven. If your memory's a little, I did screen like that big photos for those of you in the back can't see the best. So for those of you whose memory is a little rusty, normally when you crank the handle, a holographic image of Gehn appears inside the brass tube sphere in there. Now, see, the thing is, I am not normally one to do something by halves. So when I say that it's holographic for that, you kind of need to know that it's fully functional. So, thing is, though, I actually don't need any of this. That's a joke. I'm not going to be operating it. The scribe's going to be operating it. So, you know. I don't need any of it. So I could talk all about this back and forth, about how it really works. But the deal is with this thing is that no one in the audience is going to get a good view of this, because the best view is to stand there for walk around and you're all sitting down in one place. So I have videos up there, so don't feel bad if I'm on the front row. The videos of me walking around. So how about we just sort some stuff out and give it a spin? Let me just check a couple of switches first. Just for the first one, we'll do this. Would you like to do the honors and give it a crank? Let's see if the audio plays through this off. So the audio is not playing through the presentation for some reason right now. Let me make sure I put the volume on my laptop up. Don't know why the audio is not playing through this API audio device. Quick, see if I can change that. But as you can see in the hologram, in the video, I'm walking all the way around that. And you didn't see the back of my head. Isn't that interesting? So basically, this contraption that I built is roughly 30 pounds or 14 kilos, 71 centimeters, 28 inches tall, and it operates at up to 1,200 RPM with 300 volts securing it all together. You might notice a few differences from the in-game one, like, for instance, it's only 60% to scale because the real one is actually much larger, but that was just too impractical for me to build that. There's a brass panel on the front with switches to pick the videos, so it's not just one. And there's the minor, modification of the fully functioning holographic system in the middle of it, which is actually a really big deal. It's full color, it's high definition, and it's 360-degree viewable. And I really need to stress, this isn't some neato toy or whatever else the cool thing made. I actually can't find any records of anyone having made this before. I found things of people trying, but no one pulling it off. So it's revolutionary because it rolls, but also literally. So I'm happy to announce that the holographic image tech in the middle of that is now patent pending because I'm apparently the first one to pull this off. It's groundbreaking stuff. I have accidentally developed new technology while trying to make a video game prop more screen accurate. Oops. It turns out, I'll just go back and forth as this video plays again. Omnidirectional is actually a lot more useful than straight replication of 3D objects. If we're just a head in there, 3 out of 4 people standing around it don't get a good view. You see the backs or the sides of the end. But with this, everyone sees the face, and not only that, you see them making eye contact with you. So, other one, this, I'll get this right to this one. Right 3 switches. We want middle, down, middle. Oop, that's the wrong one. Well, the one playing there is not going to be the one up there. But, hey Disney, you paying attention? You want to license this tech off me? I've got the patent application covering it. So for those who don't know, yeah, the audio is muted on this specific video, but it's a certain phrase that ends in, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope." And I'm walking all the way around it. So this tech has applications way beyond this kind of stuff. It's currently playing back pre-recorded videos from that. It can play a whole lot more. It can do video mirroring, like Chromecast, any computer external display. But it can do standalone appliances like video chatting. Imagine that in the middle of a boardroom table. And what's his name? Everyone around the boardroom table all sees the boss dialing in. Imagine it, at a restaurant in the middle where they sometimes have tablets you can order food from, except you're ordering from this with people playing around for you. For those who can see the screen right now, it's playing Catherine's Freedom Escape video. So you can imagine things like advertising, billboards, whatever else that people walk around, see from all sides. Obviously, there's things like theme parks, so I would put it on that. All sorts of places that this could be. So if any companies watching this want to license the technology, get in contact with me. Details at the bottom of the thing. And obviously, I'm just talking about the part in the middle of the rest of it. So how does it work? We have to go back 150 years to zoetropes. What is a zoetrope? It's an animation toy from the 1860s. Picture of one on the left. Basically a cylinder with a large number of slits around it. Static images below the slits. As it rotates, the slits wipe past the images, and persistence of vision mean you see an animation. The example on the right is some of the frames, and that's what you would see on below. The coloring of that cat is based upon Mysterium co-chair Rain's cat Zoe. So that would be a zoetrope for that one. Because, of course, I couldn't resist the pun. So here's an example of just one of the old-fashioned ones going around of a rocking horse. The image, when it starts spinning, isn't the clearest, but when spun, you look through assist, you can make out a kind of a rocking horse rocking. You're limited to only a dozen or so frames of animation, so only a second or so long. You can also see multiple horse animations to the left and to the right. So there's a lot of changes that go between this 150-year-old tech and the new stuff. So what's the difference between a zoetrope and an endotrope? Endotrope is the generic, purposefully non-trademark term that I'm giving to any kind of similar technology that uses this kind of animation technique. It's also a trope because this is exactly the kind of thing that I tend to show off at Mysteriums, which is just funny. Rough definition of a zoetrope. It uses screens such as LCDs, but my one could be OLEDs or ink or whatever. There's no limit to that instead of still pictures. Instead of using a dozen or more screens, slits, it uses only a few slits, and they're arranged so you only see one animation at a time, not a whole lot of them. I use two for weight balancing reasons. Because of the slits, it means it has to spin much faster to get up to the persistence of vision. So this one spins at up to 1,200 RPM. That gets you around 40 frames a second of animation content like that. And most importantly, the difference between this and a zoetrope is that it's designed to display an omnidirectional billboarding video that a group of people all around can see together. Now, I'm just going to be technical here for the haters and the trolls on the internet. I'll be the first to argue about this question that this is holographic. Turns out that the definition everyone uses as just casually is not what the dictionary uses, because things like the spinning LEDs and the Meta Quest headsets have been called holographic, and that don't matter at all. That doesn't match at all with the dictionary definition. So I'm using that word in general sense of this is what it is. If you want to argue the technicality for that, you have my full permission to go nuts. Just make sure if you at me in any conversation, you need to know the difference between a hologram and a holograph before you at me. Otherwise, I'm just going to ignore you. So the thing about this is making it actually work. I found records of people trying, but no one pulling this off. So a lot of fine tuning that makes this going to get good image clarity and all sorts of things like the split width. Reducing the split width means clearer image, but darker image for that. The weight and thickness of the tablets has to be balanced against the capabilities because you want less mass spinning, whatever else like that. Screens, viewing angle, all sorts of stuff. And you got to make sure that the tablets survive what is essentially a spin cycle in the washing machine, which some tablets do not survive. Image quality is boosted by not only brighter brights, but blacker blacks. So that means you can't use LEDs because they flicker. But a good example of this on the left is what people call the blackest black 3.0 paint is on the DeLorean's bonnet. And below it is Musso Black VR fabric, comparing how black the two really are. Fabric is way blacker in my opinion. It doesn't chip or flake off. It's expensive, but if you need something really black, that's what I would recommend for anyone doing something like that. The screen's also dim while the thing is idle, so that you can't see them like that. And on the right, you can see an image up running without the cage, so you can kind of see the size of the screen and what you get image quality for that. And you can see the image displayed isn't actually flat. It's a curve that you see as you walk around. Curves more pronounced farther away from the axis the screens are, so you want thinner tablets to have less curve. The tabs that I use for anyone who's going to want to go, how do you do this, are by Blackview. You might know them better for their dash cams. Blackview dash cams are pretty popular, but they also make tablets and whatever else. The Tab 10 is a good compromise between all the features. And obviously any videos on here have all been AI upscaled and frame rate increased because Riven's tiny 15 frames a second videos just don't look good on such a high def screen. So what's actually inside this thing in an Androtrope? It looks really simple when you look at it right now, but pulling this off well is the difficult part. So there is, on the right-hand side, photo inside, I boosted the brightness to try and make things more visible. There's basically two tablets back-to-back clamped down by 3D printed clamps that spin around. On the left, you can see exploded view of all. The red line is the viewing slit, and as it rotates around, you see a slice of that tablet, which is why you see it in a curved screen that's going around with a motor on the bottom. So I'm going to show you some other pictures of the rest of this thing because that's the Androtrope, but what about the whole imager? Here's what the rest of the imager looks like on the inside. 790,000 polygons in my CAD model that I was working on to figure out how I fit things in that shape. So much going on, it's hard to understand these images, but I kind of wanted to share them anyway just because they look so cool and I wanted to give a window into the complexity of the device. The central part, still looking down, actually starts to look a bit Iron Man for that. Yeah, so gonna have a solid structure. Structure is a mixture of, the main cube structure is T-slot to save weight, which is great for prototyping things if you're using that. Aluminium also saves weight, stainless steel where strength is needed, and brass obviously for aesthetics. Mechanics inside are by Go Builder, who are for robotics competitions. There's vibration all over the place for trying to minimize vibration because you can imagine something that big does vibrate a lot. And rubber washers, rubber sheet, and of course an obligatory cat picture supervising the billboard process because the internet loves cats. Okay, so the brass sphere. This is what it looks like on the inside and bottom, top of them, just how freaking complicated this all is. It's split into 5 sections because Gehn, and it was convenient to actually do that on this thing. Each individual tube is bolted to the 3D printed holder, which is bolted to the stainless steel plate, and there's custom 3D printed designs that I'll show you later. Here's both sides outside of the machine so you can see how freaking complicated there is. They're both matched together to sandwich and push together the tubes as well as the screw to hold them securely in place. Both halves together mean 20 3D printed parts and 90 screws. Here's the 3D models. It's a bit dark, those photos. Find that easier to do. There's also stuff like matching the curves, clearance, bulkhead, screw access, reducing resin, and adding drain holes, and it's all millimeters away. And that is by and far the most complicated 3D model I've ever had to make for 3D printing. That's super pretty though. So a couple minor touches that you may not see up there. There are 5-sided bolts all over this machine. Not a single one is aesthetics. Every single one is functional. The 5-sided bolts are actually what squish together the brass sphere as well as the front brass panel on the front. So every single one is actually doing something. Top of the image isn't clear in the game, so I just add a sphere with a bullseye level on top for leveling it because it's spinning so fast you need to keep it level. I put a nice 90s aesthetic of retro, primitive 3D polygon models for that. So actually, let's play another video. That's probably a good idea. Scribe. Looks like I forgot the code for this one. Let me just look up the scribe code for this one. This one is up, middle, up. See if this one plays. Oh, wait. What's that? That doesn't look old. That looks new. Interesting. That looks like it's made, from the last few months. Huh. Funny that. I guess I'm going to have to be playing that one later in the convention when people can get up close to it to actually see that in person. Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned 3D printed parts. Turns out that there's FDM and resin 3D printing. With everything added up, there turned out to be 25 resin printed parts just perfect. On the left is an example of the holders that hold the tablets in place. And on the right is the sphere that goes on top. Let's keep going. Other 3D printed FDM parts. This is the base case. Base case is FDM printed in 4 parts from PLA Plus, which is corn base. Quarters bolted together, covered in flexible automotive putty to look like rock, painted up, bolted together, coated in vibration and noise absorbing paint. 30 plus hours modeling just in the case to get everything right for integrity and clearances and whatever else, and then 70 or so hours to print that. Other fine details are the handle. Oh my God, the cranking handle just really hammers home this thing. Like 3D printing, laser cutting, resin casting, they're great, but just metal is so much nicer to hold. So it's made of tanned stainless steel with a cast iron body and a brass axle that goes onto a brass plate with brass slotted screws on it. It just looks so nice. Metal unfortunately ends up being very expensive, so I need to point out that the brass tubes that are all around it actually cost these parts here around $700 US. When you get the tube and you get it bent to shape, each one is filled with resin because those are structural, because those are what support the top of the machine. So it's not like that. Yeah. Total cost of this machine was expensive. Let's just say that. The handle as well is also connected to a dynamo meant for wind turbines. So like when you crank it, it has that nice feel and sound of resistance of generating electricity because you are. This doesn't fully power the machine. People are too intermittent, so it has a nice power cable on the right, which is braided, twisted jute, and that's fully mains rated, completely safe, because Gehn would not use a white or black PVC coated power cable. He wanted something in theme. So there's brass screws everywhere and black zinc screws inside the cylinder to hide them. Controls. I had to do some way to control the imager, so why not go with classy toggle switches, and why not go with 5 of them? They're 3-way switches to have more combinations versus power. You leave that on all the time because the Raspberry Pi and the base takes 30 seconds to boot up. Second is motor speed, so you can go between 20, 30, or 40 frames a second, depending on how quiet or how stable you want it to look. Middle switch is good at 30 frames a second for taking videos for your phone. Third also does volume. 3, 4, 5th switches also do video selection for 27 videos, and you can change the volume and speed while it's running as many times as you want. To make the sound, though, there's actually no speaker visible. It's an exciter attached to the front of the brass panel, so that entire panel vibrates, and that's what generates the sound like that. So it's cleaner. There's no visible audio sound like that. There's front panel also unscrews from those bolts. They're just hand tight, so if I need access to electronics, that's how it gets there. Oh yeah, and because of the way it communicates via Wi-Fi, I can actually control the whole thing from my phone. There's extra videos that are not available on the switches that you have to use your phone to get to as well, because why not? So electronics, talk about that. On the left, we have a 24-volt power supply, accepts both Australian and US voltages. Far right, the motor driver, which basically converts that power to stuff for the motor. It has regenerative braking, if you didn't notice, when it slows down, so that powers the rest of the electronics, and if that's too much power for it, then it has a shunt regulator to limit it. There's an Arduino Pro Mini as a micromotor controller, so that way it can do a real-time operating system, and the Raspberry Pi handles all controls and communication. Communication, that's the real tricky part. How do you communicate with something spinning that fast? You can't really send a lot of data by cables for that. So it's happening all over Wi-Fi using just the standard MQTT protocol. Optimizations have been done to keep the latency as low as possible for that, and basically both tablets are kept in sync from that. Battery life is roughly all day because like right now they're sitting there with the screens on minimum brightness. They don't have any antennas running for that, and it's only 1 packet every 8 seconds for Wi-Fi data for that. I was going to do wireless power delivery to them with coils. I bought it, but I ran out of time. So I just charge the tablets through holes in the top of it, and it's roughly once a day I have to charge that. Now, here's an accessory that I need to mention, because the tablet's stuck in that little sphere, and you kind of have to like turn them on and off. So this is the dabber. Yeah. Basically, wooden spindle on a hand-carved leather. This was made by my other half, Mika, so huge thanks to them. And as you spin this, it bends back and forth like that. And when you insert it into the tablet like that, the extra radius bends it much tighter than when it is like this. There's a conductive rubber nib on the top, and there's a copper enameled wire snaking all the way down to it to a bolt by a handle to handle the conductivity that way. You can open the tops and bottoms of the cylinder a bit to get a little bit of access, but just as many options as possible. And it's like, I thought I should at least mention this cool little doodad that it is. Since you can't easily get into those tablets without a lot of disassembly, you got to get into them anyway. So, since I've been advised by my lawyer to mention all these things, and the patent application covers all of this, but there are ways to improve this design. I didn't get around to some of them because I ran out of time, but there are other ways that could happen to this that make this actually better. Wireless charging is the obvious one, as I mentioned before. The next one you could do is you could use, say, red, blue 3D glasses and have a 3D model in there. You could go again with just putting polarized sheets on either thing, and then standard polarized glasses. You could have a 3D image in there instead of a 2D one if you want to go really crazy with that. I was going to do that, but I ran out of time, unfortunately. This project was done in 8 months, which is way quick for me. After the last Mysterium finished. So you can have other screens. 2 is really convenient for balancing because there's a battery on the left of one side of the tablet, but if you put 2 back to back, then there's a battery on the right side. But you can do it with 1. There's no reason it can be 3 or 5. Higher numbers means it means a lot more complexity and weight in it all. But it means the thing has to spin much slower and you get a brighter view of it. So I need to show you my prototype to show just how silly you can make some of this. This is a tomato soup can, spray painted black with barbecue black paint that I cut down a slit and hot glued to a pedestal fan. And it's very hacky, but you can see it's working. So one screen works just fine for what you want to do for that, which means you could do this small scale for a phone or something like that. Or you could scale this up to a monitor or a TV. The only limitation is the centripetal force that you have to fight as things start spinning around because it starts getting bigger and bigger. What else we got? Next one. I said that. Synchronizing frame interleaving. We've got 2 screens. What if one screen plays one image and the next screen plays a different image? They're not exactly synchronized. You could do that. You could harden a bandwidth or your processing power to make it twice as fancy images for that one. You could have directional image display. So if, for instance, you had, say, a 240 or 300 hertz display, you could just change the image multiple times around so that people physically do see the backs and side of their head as they're around it. Don't know why you would want that, but, it's an option that you want to do something fancy like that. Different screen technologies could be used, like OLED. I did actually investigate. It is available if you know how to hunt. You can find tablets that are based on transflective displays that are viewable outdoors, or even E-Link full-color tablet. There is one model available out there now, but they just had really bad contrast and didn't look that good for it. So I was like, I don't want to do that for this one just yet. There's no reason that the cylinder needs to be a cylinder either, and doesn't actually be solid if you use something like privacy film. You could do all sorts of other shapes that make it partially transparent hologram if you really want to do that. So I'm almost done, and there's one final video that I just couldn't resist making in costume, so I'll just do this one myself. Let's see if the audio plays on this one. If not, I'll just speak what I'm saying. I apologize for the cage. Couldn't resist the bad joke. So that's basically it for my presentation. Thanks for having me help me with this project. I need to thank my other half, Mika, as well, for a lot of help. I need to thank the Gehn costume, courtesy of Rivenchan again. This image will be displayed in the convention room this weekend. Beyond that, it's going to be on permanent loan to Cyan because shipping is expensive for something this big and heavy. So people will be able to see it in the future. Any questions, feel free to ask me. I may not be around in person because I'm bouncing back and forth, but I'll try to respond to things and hashtag praise Gehn. Okay, so how are we for time? I'm not sure. I haven't been paying that much attention. I'm just been trying to go as quick as possible. What are we like? Schedule. Give me money. Give me money. Disney, you want this in your theme parks? Meta, you want to have this as your new AR thing? Contact me. Details on the bottom. Bro. Do you want to play Lay or do you want to play something else? Yeah, Kita's Imager. Okay. I don't know how it's pronounced. I have that one on there. I can do, I don't have these on videos that I can put up on there. There's going to be a bit of jumping on this one, but you probably want to see this one up, down, up. Oh yeah, like I don't know how much long we have for the next one, but this video starts a bit black, but when you start to see it running, it might have a bit of flicker in this one because it didn't preload it. But yeah, can we have the lights down for this one? Yeah, I'll put the Princess Leia one back up. Can't have the audio on for that one in case it gets hit with a copyright complaint or something, but... So any questions or is I getting any time done? Yes, Akana. No comment. That was my backup plan for this year if I didn't pull this one off, but this one intrigued me a lot more. We got someone down here. Yeah. Aging the brass. Well, that's an interesting question because some of Gehn's stuff is bright and shiny and some of it isn't. And you look in the game and the brass sphere tubes itself, those actually are like a black color like they have been aged, but other parts on the imager are light colored. So the parts that are shiny light colored elsewhere, like on the side for the handle that you might have seen that, and the plates on the top and bottom, those have all been clear coated to keep them brass. But the main tubes in the middle, those haven't been clear coated, so those will develop a nice patina with time, just as it slowly ages itself, rather than me artificially aging them up. I don't know. Should we put to another one? Let's go one around here. Yeah, I'm a uni dropout. The thing about that is if you do that, what are you going to attach your electronics to drive it? And that's kind of the problem where a lot of people have had troubles trying to make this thing work in the back. Putting a tablet in there is entirely self-contained. It's everything you need. It's everything you go. It just runs. You absolutely could do better things if you were going to do that differently, to have just the screen itself, less thickness. You could put like the driving control circuitry at the top or bottom like that. You could curve it so it offsets the curve that's naturally in the display. Let's just go back to that video for that one. Yeah, you could see all sorts of things with curved displays with it as well. It will. Oh, that one's playing. You get audio now. I use the original audio, of course. Okay, we got time for one more question. There's someone right up the back. You might have to speak loud so I can hear. No, the whole thing is all rotating together. Yes. In fact, there's actually a little hidden thing under the cap. So I can manually rotate the whole thing if I need to while working for maintenance or whatever else. So it's all one big unit. And I think that is it. Time for the next people. Again, sexy photo shoot, just shimmy, take notes. Okay, we're back.